Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today, we will be discussing about the Centre's advisory to states and union territories, asking them to ensure strict action by police in crimes against women. The Union Ministry of Home Affairs has issued a new advisory to states over how to deal with crimes against women. Among other things, the MHA has asked states to ensure mandatory registration of FIRs and completion of probes in 2 months in cases of sexual assault. What is the aim behind this advisory? Will it help curb crimes against women? We will seek answers to such questions in the agenda today. We have with us retired IPS officer Yashwardhan Razad and social activist Ambar Zaidi. But before we begin our conversation, let us have a look at this small report.
Against the backdrop of Hathway's episode, the Union Home Ministry has issued an advisory to the state and union territories regarding guidelines to deal with crimes against women. In its advisory, the MHA said that even with stringent provisions in law and several capacity building measures undertaken, any failure of police to adhere to these mandatory requirements may not augur well for the delivery of criminal justice in the country, especially in context of women's safety. Such lapses, if noticed, needs to be investigated into and stringent action taken immediately against the concerned officer responsible for the same, it said. The centre asked state and union territories to suitably issue instruction to all concerned to ensure strict compliance with the provisions in the law, reiterating the guidelines and laid down norms for investigation of sexual offences. The MHA asked states to ensure mandatory registration of FIRs and action against officers who refuse to register FIRs in case of rape and certain other crimes against women. It also said that dying declaration of a victim should be treated as a matter of fact and press for ensuring completion of investigation in sexual assault cases in 2 months. The advisory also talked about collection of evidence for forensic examination and use of sexual assault evidence collection kit and use of national database on sexual offenders for identifying and tracking repeat sexual offenders, among others. The state were also asked to monitor the cases on the investigating tracking system for sexual offences to ensure that suitable follow-up action is taken for the charge sheet of the guilty in a timely manner as required in the law. The advisory has been issued against the backdrop of alleged rape and murder of a 19-year-old in a Hathras village and the events thereafter, which have triggered a major controversy. Bureau Report.
Now let's welcome our guests, Mr. Yashwardhan Azad and Ms. Ambar Zaidi. Welcome to the program, both of you. My first question is to Mr. Azad. You must have read about the advisory issued by the MHA. What could have prompted it?
Basically a follow-up of the earlier advisories on the same subject. It takes care of a number of issues like how the investigation should be done promptly within 2 months, how the procedure should be followed. There was a standard operating procedure which was coined by the Bureau of Police and Research. And besides, there are some other things also which are very well known to the various states. The only thing I want to say about the advisory is that the law and order is a state subject, and it's basically incumbent upon the state to actually see that the crimes against women are really stopped. The Ministry of Home Affairs has a merely advisory role. In fact, let me tell you also that earlier on, when the central government belonged to the same party as the various states, then these MHA advisories had great value. But now with the differing governments from various parties in the center and the state, apparently there's not much of harmony. Besides, the role of the Ministry of Home Affairs is also a little too diffused to be focused. For example, telling the police authorities how to conduct investigations in their advisory is a little meaningless because this is very well known in the various states. I think the MHA should focus on other things like the provision of the infrastructure, forensic kits, the Mahila constables, the grants which have been given, the equipment which had to be bought under Nirbhay Fund, the utilization, etc. In that respect, I would say that after Nirbhay incident which took place, after 8 years, there is nothing pathfinding or anything in this MHA circular.
In fact, I wanted to ask you as a supplement to that, this is just a reiteration. Everything is already, laid down, and it is for the, as you mentioned, that it's a police. Law and order is police state subject. So why is MHA getting into it then?
MHA is doing it because it has to justify its existence. It's the Ministry of Home Affairs, and it had created a women division in 2018. And if you look at the website, all these websites contain the same kind of circulars which add nothing new. In fact, what is to be done is at the states, which is not being done. And therefore, that's a different subject, that even at the center, the Ministry of Home Affairs should be, reorganized in a different manner that it becomes more useful. The entire operation, the entire SOP, everything is available with the state government. And that is why you will see that some state governments are pretty advanced in terms of infrastructure and the response and their action taken, whereas some are completely laggardly in this respect. So in that respect, Center MHA has done its own duty, which it regularly does on issues like this.
Okay, now let me ask Ms. Zaidi about this advisory. As we discussed just now, that it is just a reiteration of what is already laid down. So what is the purpose of sending this?
Mr. Kaul, we all know that this is the concept of zero FIS is not a new thing which MHA has introduced now. But if you talk about the new NCRB data of crime against women, they are increasing, every year so rapidly. So what are we doing to stop such incidents or the crime against women? That is the question. Are we just doing these things for the sake of it, or we do have such a clear intention or pure intention to stop such incident or crime against women? We have to work hard. I'm talking about the society as the people like us who are working for the betterment of the society and the government as well, because people choose them to protect themselves or maybe for other stuff as well. But the first thing that we always talk about is the women's safety and women's security. What is being happened on the ground is the question. Because every time when such incident happen, everybody comes out, everybody just post a customary thing on social media and criticize someone, and some formalities happens that this being done and like this has been infused just now. We have to work hard in the right direction to change the some provision in laws that which was also talking about. We have to sensitize our police. We have to run a few campaigns among people to make them aware about legal provisions and of their rights. What are their legal rights? Which is already available. Nobody knows what is the zero FIR, which is already existing in our country. So, and the government should also create a kind of pressure on police to register FIR or complaints in such cases, because we have been dealing with such cases since so long, but the problem which they face initially, police doesn't register the FIR or the complaint because they try not to register FIR or complaint just so that their the number of crime doesn't increase. So this kind of intention in police or some prejudice towards women are challenging for women to fight for their rights or their safety in our country. So we have to sensitize our society, our police, and some judicial amendments are very much important, which we have to work hard on. These are the challenges we have.
Okay, Mr. Azad, as Ambar Zaidi just raised good points that particularly about registering of FIRs, you have been a police officer, so there is always a tendency, I also found that there is a tendency of, not registering FIRs to show that in our police station area crimes are under control. So how to address that situation?
Well, there are two things here. Definitely, there is incentive for the police officers at that level to birth crime. And you know why? Because, statistics is supposed to be the most important thing when analyzing a police station's performance. And that is very sad because if you just go by the number of incidents which have taken place, it really doesn't mean anything. In fact, if you have free registration of FIR, there'll be lots and lots of incidents being reported. But that is a better thing than birthing. But here we are talking about the crimes against women. It is difficult to birth crimes against women if they are serious crimes. But lessening of the intensity of the crime, yes, that could be done in certain. But the more important thing in responding to such crimes is that the earlier part which Ms. Zaidi had mentioned was that the sensitivity what is displayed by the first responder. There are many things which need to be done. There has to be a Mahila police officer who should take the statement. There has to be a Mahila police officer who should take her to the hospital. There is no need of, keeping the victim at the police station. She should be first rushed to the hospital, and in the hospital, the statement can be taken. And there, that is the zero FIR which can be transferred to the police station, and then the numbers can be given. So basically, it's how a first responder, that is the police, reacts to a victim in a police station, which is very, very critical. Now, there are some other things. You see, if, for example, we are talking about the emergency response, which has been mentioned in the MHA advisory, is it working, the emergency response team? Is it working that the police officers immediately give a call and that the ambulance is available within half an hour? Is it true that once you take the ambulance and the victim to the hospital and you ring up before, you have everything in position, that the due sensitivity, due privacy is being accorded to the victim for taking her statements, etc. Now, these are very, very critical things in cases like this when you are reacting to crimes and responding to them immediately. In 24 hours, you have to do the medical examination, and therefore it is important that this entire infrastructure is in place. And that is why the state governments, if they are sensitive enough, they have to look into these things. Mind you, most of these reports about the crimes are coming, if you statistically see, it would be in the rural areas where they are short of this infrastructure. And that's why it is important to see that this requisite, that there have been sexual assault investigation kits which have been distributed, which the healthcare workers, of course, can do a very good job with it. Whether we have sufficient infrastructure, sufficient manpower, and sufficient facilities to take care of the initial response to such complaints or the FIRs.
But as you mentioned about lady police officer being there to register complaint and first responder, those all things have been there. I mean, after Nirbhaya, all these things were supposed to be in place, but these are not in place. These are not working. So there is some problem somewhere.
Absolutely. This is exactly what I told you, that MHA's advisories won't make any difference unless the state governments make efforts to do something about it. In fact, all these things were already known. And after Nirbhaya, there were a set of guidelines. Laws were made more ambient, and there were stringent directions also to take care of such offences immediately and in a sensitive manner. And all these things were to be done by the state government. For example, the forensic kits. It's a very, very critical infrastructure facility, because with the DNA test, you're able to nail the accused. The DNA analysis is very, very important. And the statement of the accused is very important, and the way the medical examination is done. So all this, it comes under the purview of the state government, and unless they provide that, it's going to be very difficult. And above all, it has to be the response coming from the policemen. In such cases, again, I'd like to remind you, atrocities against women, and especially if they belong to the weaker sections, the collector and the SP, both are responsible. These are supposed to be highly sensitive special report cases investigated by DSPs and looked upon by the higher authorities for supervision. And that's why it is important that the state governments look into it. Now, if the state governments don't do it, the MHA's advisories cannot do anything about it.
So there is lack of accountability of the state governments also, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. You're right. State authorities of the Home Department, the entire ministry, the entire the officers who respond to it, the police officers, and also the disciplinary authority who don't give immediate punishment in cases, because, mind you, again, Section 166A is to be used against police officers who are not lodging FIRs as per the information given with respect to these cases.
Even in the case of states, when we find, if we talk about Hathras case particularly, there is a tendency, as we talked about police stations, there is a tendency about, regarding the states also, state governments also try to kind of downplay such incidents, so that, their state government is not shown in poor light, isn't it?
Yeah, you see, law and order is a very important area, and no state wants to be seen in a bad light. And that is why such atrocities especially against weaker sections and women, brings a bad name. And so if the action is not taken immediately as per the rules laid down, then of course it certainly brings a bad name, and also to the establishment, the police, the Home Department. And in that respect, the state governments like to, minimize or see that it does not go. In fact, in this case, I would say it is to the credit of the media channels like you, which brought this case to the notice of the people. And she's getting justice in the form of that the CBI has been, recommended, and CBI has virtually taken over the case.
So, as we talk about Hathras case particularly, it was the police actually, and maybe the district administration also, which actually messed up and created more complications rather than solving the issues, no? Isn't it?
Right. The police should have been upfront about it. There were mistakes which were done. Initially, a lot of reports have come out that the victim, when she came to the police station, she said clearly what had she undergone, the brutality, and that should have immediately been recorded, or she should have been taken to the hospital where her statement should have been recorded, rape should have been registered, and investigation should have started immediately. The medical examination should have been conducted if she had given a statement like that. And thereafter, the district administration absolutely botched it up by doing the cremation at night, and only the SP was suspended because of the investigation. The collector should have been suspended because of the botched up handling of the law and order and cremation at night. My point is that if she was denied justice, she was not given proper treatment and dignity during her lifetime when she was brought to the police station, then at least should have been given dignity to her after death by letting the rites be performed in the morning. And yes, I understand that there was a law and order situation building up, but you should be a man enough to face the law and order problem if you have committed mistakes. and if you have to give due justice to somebody who has died in most unfortunate circumstances.
Administration and police actually trained to handle law and order situations. So why to shy away?
That's true. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. In such cases, I've handled many cases where we know that the situation is building up in the morning, and you have to face it, whether you have to do firing, whether you have to do lathi charge, but you have to give due rights to the customs, and especially in such a case. There have been, burials and such rites being performed at night. But in a case like this, I think you're right. You're trained to handle law and order. And in a situation like this, you should have fought it out and faced it in the morning.
Okay, now let me turn to Amber Zadi. I think we lost connection with her, and now she's back. Amber, can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Yeah, can you please repeat your question?
My question is, now actually we were talking about this whole messing up of the situations like Hathras, and now actually I want to come to the situation about politics getting into it. I mean, everything, such incidents being seen through the color of politics. Maybe I'll cite the incident of Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. Now there is a comparison whether Rajasthan there are more rapes or Uttar Pradesh there are more rapes.
Exactly. As per the new NCRB data, the number of crime against women in Rajasthan are higher than the other states. But the irony of our country is that we politicize to crime against women. Like in today's time, what happened in Hathras, it was the complete politicization that we saw in UP. But as per our culture and the history of India, we say that women are, we worship women, and the power that we celebrate in our country. But what we practice is exactly opposite to that. We are politicizing the issues and crime against women. Rather, we ensure the safety and security of our women. We should not politicize such issues. We have to ensure that what we promise to our girls. But we are every day we are just destroying their. The idea of safety and security that we have to ensure. We should take every woman as our own. We should not politicize such issues. We have to work in the right direction. That we were talking about the judicial activism that we need to do. Actually, all are doing social activism and the awareness and the things which are required to do in our country. But the one thing which is required to do is that we focus on the judicial activism, that changes are required in our judicial provisions which are not good for women's safety and security. Like so many times it happens that after even that rape proven, even then also accused get bail. So that is these kind of provisions give a message that you can get away with such crimes. So we have to strengthen and strengthen our law to make our women feel safer.
No, they must. Why I was referring to politics getting into it is like, I mean, one incident is also bad. Even if Rajasthan has more rape cases or Uttar Pradesh has less cases, it doesn't matter. Even one case is bad.
We have to stand united against such incidents. We should talk about every girl of our country, not just Rajasthan ki beti or UP ki beti or Dalit ki beti or Muslim ki beti. We should always talk about and stand for every daughter of India,
right.
Because everyone in a country, we are living in a free democratic country, and every single woman is equal for us. No one should be Dalit ki beti or Muslim ki beti. We should stand with everyone, and it is our government's duty as well to ensure everyone's rights and their security. The problem is that our people in our country, they never question our government that what is happening in such cases. We have to make them accountable. Maybe be it the MPs, MLAs, or the police officers. We have to. The government should make them accountable. What is happening in the previous cases? Every time new case comes, we move on to other, and we just express some. Karinda and post some customary thing on social media. That's it. But we never ask what happened in the previous case. The number are increasing every day, but what is being happened to stop such crime? We never ask. Just customary thing is customary things are being happened, and the things are as it is as they were before.
So, Mr. Azad, I want to ask you the same question. Like, how, since you have been a police officer, politics, when it gets into it, it actually spoils everything, and that is why I think the deterrence is reduced against such crimes, isn't it?
Yes, in India, unfortunately, you'll see it is the politicians who speak more on crime investigation. You have seen it in Sushant case, you have seen it in Hathras case, and everywhere, every crime, as MSZ is absolutely right, is politicized. Instead of being acting in a professional manner against a crime against women, which is she is absolutely right that a woman, whether she's from Nagaland or whether she's from Bihar or anywhere, she's a human being. She's an Indian, and it should be taken up in a more sensitive manner. The problem of politicization is that the politics permeates every aspect of life, and unfortunately, if you see, our rural life and the rural institutions are most influenced by the political framework. And, you know, the caste lines, the political lines completely impact the lower institutions in such a manner that in many cases they are corroded and they are corrupt. And that is why it is very, very important now to choose proper police leaders so that their influence can really go down the line. You know, a lot of effort has been done towards doing some police reform. There have been calls, everyone, the NGOs, even the policemen today want to reform themselves. But the problem is the reform is not
But
coming.
sir, you will appreciate that no government will allow it. No political party will allow that reform because they want police to be under them.
Exactly. So that is why, you know, it is women like Mrs. Zaidi, it is retired people like us, there are anchors like you, the civil society, we have to fight for it. And as she said, the judicial activism, and there are so many other panels which have to come together on one platform. Because, you know, today if you see, this is a very important point she has raised. The first plank of police reform should be that the investigation should be accountable to the court. Let the law and order be with the state. But unless you bring investigation, if you start politicizing investigation, nothing is left. A simple investigation like Sushant Singh Rajput went on for 3 months, and look the stage where we have reached. It's all because of politicization. And on Sushant Singh Rajput case, only politicians were speaking, whereas the policemen were keeping quiet, because the police leadership ceded space to the political executive. And that's why I totally agree with you. Politicization is making a nonsense of this entire issue, and something has to be done very soon. Either the court should step in, the civil society should step in, and we should join together to see that people at least get fair trial.
I have been a votary of fast track courts, particularly for rape cases. Maybe Amar Jadi can throw more light on this.
Mr. Paul, I have a suggestion, or maybe something to say for women's safety or security. What needs to be done? I think we have to make the system transparent, so that or an easier medium, so that women can register an FIR or a complaint to the police. We have to make the system modernized or technically sound, so that everyone can register themselves on that platform and can send or register their FIR or complaint directly. Because most of the time what happens that a girl never goes to a police station or hesitates sometimes to complain to the police, I think for that we have to, a government should take initiative to make this system transparent and easier so that everyone can easily send an FIR, and this system going to be transparent enough so that everyone can access that what is being happened in that complaint or FIR. Any girl can come on that platform and can register the FIR. We have to make some guidelines to make it transparent and not take complaint comes on that platform. So we have to work in right direction to make system transparent and easier for people to come to the police for their complaints or any other thing.
No, that's a good suggestion. Our time is running out, but I may bring it your notice that in rural areas, people are not even aware. I mean, victims don't. If you take the case of Hathras, people are not even aware how to file an FIR, where to go, how to go about.
Exactly.
So,
That's what I said in the very beginning, that we have to make people aware. We have to run awareness campaigns among people so that they can know what are their legal rights. In our NGO, we run legal awareness program for women especially, so that they can know or they can get aware what are their legal rights. People doesn't know what is actually zero FIR. No, most of the people doesn't know what zero FIR.
Right.
It was already existing. So when people doesn't know about the provisions, how can we expect people to go to the police and register FIR under that provision or SCRPC or IPC? You have to make them aware this is your right and you can get your right. You can go to the police and ask to the police to register your FIR under this IPC or CRPC. So awareness is something very important that we have to. In fact, the government should take some serious initiative to run awareness program for legal awareness campaigning, and the sensitization of police is very important, because most of the time people have policemen. I must say they have some prejudices towards women. In fact, I've been on debates with many retired officers, and they have serious prejudices that women are. Most of the time they are fake, or the complainants they are most of the fake. So we have to treat policemen, they should treat everyone unbiasedly so that they can help them deliver justice. So they cannot be.
Yeah, you are right. There is need for awareness and sensitization of police personnel. But our time is running out, has run out in fact. Thank you both of you for participating in this debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I will be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.